Hello, everybody. I am back to answer another question. So today's question will be, what are the best ways to remedy us not seeing or hearing our kids, as unfortunately this happens at times, so these don't turn into traumas? So this question was in regard to a post on being heard. And the post says that one of the most powerful relational antidotes to behavior rooted in anger, such as aggression or name calling or frustration, is feeling heard. So when we feel angry, a big trigger for this is feeling unheard. So for whatever reason we feel unheard or unseen, or kind of rejected in some way. So this is a very painful human experience, and it goes way, way back. So this did not start with us. It's in our biology to be part of the community or part of the group. And if we are rejected from this or not heard, it triggers this kind of abandonment, rejection biology within us, and it can be really aggravating. So being seen and being heard is a really vital part of being a human. This said, absolutely, humans are flawed and we mess up and we make mistakes and we are totally imperfect, and we are all working on our own journeys while we are relating to others. So everybody has a different definition of what it means to be seen or what it means to be heard. So this further complicates things because we don't have a handbook for every single human and what matters to them. So it really matters on what is important to the individual human and what that means for them. So diving into how to remedy this so traumas do not get stored in the body. So, by trauma, I think of it really as unresolved or unprocessed experiences that didn't make sense in the moment, or were an overflow of sensation or processing or bombardment to the body, mind, and emotions in a way that the child could not process and integrate what that experience was. So, this can be anything from a psychology term is big T trauma or little t trauma. However, I don't think the labels are really essential for this conversation and can be invalidating. So, whenever a child has an experience that doesn't make sense to them, we do want to make meaning of it and help them out somehow. This said, again, we're totally imperfect. So, recognizing that they will have little unresolved emotion in their body or things stored up no matter what, just because that's part of the human experience. It's not about going through life in this perfectly safe, secure way, although that's ideal. It doesn't happen like that. So we will mess up, we will say or do things that hurt them in some way, and we will act outside our values when we are triggered or we're experiencing things. So I don't know anybody who can emotionally regulate through every single moment. If you know them, send them my way, because I would be curious to talk to them and see what they're doing, maybe living on their own on a mountain, but I don't know if that's the case. So anyway, how do we repair this? The number one way is repair. So often I talk about rupture and repair terminology, which means there was a rupture in the relationship, which is a misattunement in some way. So the child needed something or wanted something, and we were not attuned or we weren't observant of that in the moment. So the child has this kind of unresolved need or unresolved want or something that hurt or rejected them in some way, and their mind might not be making full experience of it, or their body, or full understanding of it. So let's use an example of a child that is really interested in something, and they really want to stop on the side of the road and look at a bug, for example. So a child's in this beautiful flow state. They're noticing these things that they're interested in. It seems totally trivial to us. Like, that's the same bug you see on every corner, Johnny. Let's not stop now. We're on the way to the store, or whatever it is. We have things to do. We have places to go. And there's this frustration that builds up and we react. So we're not hearing their desire to experience this beautiful experience of the bug on the side of the road. We have places to be where we have our own agenda, and we kind of put the kibosh on theirs and move along our way. So this is a really simple, trivial, probably example that often shows up because experience upon experience of this, and then Johnny's starting to feel really not seen or heard or valued for his innate interests or desires to learn. So even things that seem really trivial or unimportant to us can be really big deals for them. And recognizing that in that moment, that bug is Johnny's whole world, and he is all of his brain is lit up around this experience and staying, and he's not thinking about the problem with being late or having things to do or planning the day, because that's really above his brain level right now, and that's not something he should be thinking about. He's thinking about, oh, this is a cool bug, let's experience this, let's stop and do this. So really being aware of what that experience is like for them helps us with empathy or understanding in other situations. So the first thing I would do is, in the moment, if you catch yourself, which this is pretty high level, pretty advanced emotional regulation or emotional organization for us, is that you can, in the moment, acknowledge that you overstepped or didn't hear them or didn't see them. So you can say, oh, that came out more harsh than I meant it to, and I'm going to try a different way. So you might take a breath, you might apologize, you will commit a clear way that you will shift your behavior in a way that will be meaningful for them. So even if Johnny isn't old enough to make understanding or make meaning of this, it's a powerful way to model emotional regulation and humility, and recognizing that we're totally imperfect and we mess up, and we can be open with that and have it be connecting versus disconnecting. So instead of saying, oh, Johnny, you always you make the biggest deal out of this, you're sensitive, we don't have time for this, obviously, instead of going to this more punitive, shameful, totally unintentionally shameful route of, Johnny, you need to be different, or Johnny, you need to do something different right now, or I'm unhappy, we are acknowledging Johnny's love or appreciation for this experience or this bug. And we're seeing it and we're hearing it, and then recognizing that we have somewhere to be. So whatever it is within the situation that you can do differently, give it a try and talk about it. And again, this goes a lot with our own understanding of our emotions. And you can say, I'm afraid right now because we are running late for um, to drop you off at school, and then I go to work and I'm late for work. Something happens to me and I'm worried I could lose my job. You don't need to go in all those details, but just knowing for yourself that what your root emotion is valid, and it doesn't mean that it has to direct or guide our behavior. And we have the empowering access or choice to choose our behavior. So when we can mess up and model with them what we would do differently next time, and model with them and validate how it may have impacted him. Maybe you were scared, Johnny. Maybe you were a little bit nervous when I was using that voice that was loud, and I was feeling a little bit angry. And I think I would say two is, after the moment you talk about it. So let's say everybody's pretty triggered in the moment. Nobody's really getting anywhere. After the moment, later on, maybe in the evening when people are calm and relaxed before bedtime, you draw out a picture of what happened, or you talk it through. So we were going to the store to get food for the day, and you wanted to stop and see this bug, and it was so cool. It had these green spots on it and blue wings or whatever it was. Just talk about how cool it was, validate, share intention or share attention, share interest with them. But I was so nervous about being late for work and getting to the store and getting to work that I came out with this angry tone, and your face went, oh, or whatever the experience was, maybe whatever Johnny's body or reaction was in the moment, or maybe then you got silly and you were running around, and maybe you were a little bit nervous because mommy's voice was so scary or felt scary to you. Or maybe you got silly because your body wasn't sure what to do or how to respond to that, and you're running around and nervous or fearful or afraid, or whatever it is they might have been. So we don't want to put words in their mouths, but we want to give some language or give some way to label it. So that labeling helps the left brain to click in and categorize, and make meaning of this other areas of the brain that are flooded with visuals or emotions or this lack of clarity that they're grasping for about what happened. So with these things, it's less about what happened and more about how the child is making meaning of it. So how they're understanding it, how they're processing it in their body, and how they are able to bring some clarity into their mind and form a helpful story of, oh, mom was worried about work. She got angry because there was some fear underneath and she didn't mean to. That makes sense. Versus this unhelpful narrative, which kids start to form, which is mom was angry. It was all my fault. I'm bad. I did something wrong. I'm a terrible child. I'm a terrible human. And we tend to go to those dark places as humans, especially in childhood, and they continue out through all our lives. So if somebody's upset, we might take on over responsibility for that emotion, or think we can, if we're better, we can fix it. And that just isn't the case because it's based on these faulty narratives that do not make sense. So the third thing is to, no matter what, convey safety, presence, love, and connection. So instead of saying something conditionally like, well, if you didn't get so afraid of that in the moment, then maybe we would have time. We would have had time to stay there and be with the bug or whatever it is. Or if you wouldn't have spent so much time doing this at home, then maybe we would have had more time. So instead of blaming or displacing or making the acceptance or love conditional in some way, we want to convey that whatever Johnny was doing is okay in the moment. It doesn't mean we're condoning all behavior or approving of any behavior that shows up. So um, it's not saying that any behavior is okay. It's validating the emotion, validating the interest in this experience, whatever the child's interested in or engaged with, and really hearing and seeing them no matter what their behavior or emotion is in the moment. So if Johnny were to get upset in that moment and start to hit mommy because he doesn't want to go, he wants to see this bug, then we're not really connecting around that hitting. We're saying, I know this makes sense that you're so upset about having to leave this bug, or that made sense. And in the moment, I didn't see that. So in the moment, I just wanted to hurry you along. I didn't see that you were hitting it because you were so upset about it. And again, this could be a whole nother video on what to do if the child is hitting. And that's one of the most common questions I get. So I will definitely do that. But in the moment, we want to think about how to hear or see the root emotion, because that is where the child will integrate the emotion and understand that if they're feeling that way in the future, their parent is on their side and they can work through it, versus be alone or isolated in the moment and be unsure of what to do. So those are 3 places to start. The in the moment repair, catching ourselves right away and correcting, or taking a deep breath, taking a step back, telling them you need some space, or telling them why you missed it in the moment. Maybe you were distracted doing something, or you were worried or had an emotion going on about being somewhere else. So there was some anxiety somewhere in there. Whatever it was in the moment, you can take a pause and indicate to them what it was that is making you not see them or not hear them in the moment, and then what you could do differently next time to hear them or see them. So taking a moment, say, okay, I was thinking about that, but now I'm fully here. Show me these blue wings and green spots. I'm here with you. Let's do this. And maybe it's just 30 seconds, but it's powerful. So anytime that we can hear them or see them and then say, okay, but I do need to get to the store now, or whatever it is you need to do, you can go from this moment of connection. So connect before redirect is a common theme. And then 2 is after the moment. So if everybody's triggered or you totally miss it and you don't think about it until later, totally kosher to bring it up later, talk about what happened, talk about the why, talk about why you missed it. And 3 is convey the love and validation and presence. So convey that you love to see what they're interested in or love to hear about what they want to talk about, and really highlighting how that interest reflects back on their root wants and needs. So, like, wow, Johnny, you really notice everything. You have such a gift for noticing the little things in life, and that's so powerful, or whatever it is that you're noticing about this individual little human, and how whatever they're wanting to be seen or heard for is a gift that makes them an individual and their own self. And we're really strengthening their competency and boosting their sense of self even after the fact. So there's no, right or wrong in seeing or hearing kids. And I think the more analytical we get about it, the less present we're able to be sometimes. So, yes, think about our patterns and think about how we can do things differently. But at the end of the day, we will, again, mess up. And it isn't about perfection, it's about acknowledging when we do have a misstep or misattunement and moving in and going from there. So, that is it for today. And I will look forward to the next conversation with you all.